Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick live stream. So, unfortunately, we had to go to the live stream format today. So, Wednesday night, didn't sleep like pretty much at all. So, yesterday was a little bit rough. I had a lot of things going on. So, instead of making the pre-recorded video last night, kind of ran out of time. So, was switching over to the live stream for today. But what I'll be doing here is kind of going back to that live stream format for anybody that followed me a little bit ago. I'll go through the lineups that we do have for the 5 games on the main slate tonight. We'll go over to FanDuel, talk through my core picks for tonight. It's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. That's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll move over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate. It is a pretty small slate just in general, only 5 games. The only one game that we do have in terms of weather for tonight is going to be the Los Angeles Angels and the New York Yankees. 53% chance of rain out there. The other games should all be fine. And then in terms of like kind of lineups that we got so far, anything that's kind of notable. So Barger is starting right field, batting 8th for the Blue Jays. And then we got the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup pretty recently. And there is no Corbin Carroll tonight, and there is no Gabriel Moreno. So Jake McCarthy will bat 2nd for them. So that's pretty interesting there. Of course, this news kind of came out after I bet the Arizona money line on this game, which that line shifted quite a bit overall today. But I still do like them kind of as a stack just in general. But other than that, we're not seeing too much in terms of the lineups. If anybody does have any specific questions related to tonight's slate, feel free to drop them in the live chat and I'll get back to them as quickly as possible. If you're watching on replay, feel free to drop them down there as well, and I'll try to get to it before the slate starts as well. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get over to FanDuel, talk about those core picks for tonight. So let me get that brought up here. And once again, the core picks are based on a combination of past performance or their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. You got 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. I will say with pitching tonight, it's not the greatest cast of guys out there. It's not the greatest history in the world either. So I have Brian Wu here at $9,400. Very, very limited history versus Detroit Tigers hitters. He's never really faced Detroit himself in the past. He's only faced 1 hitter, and that's Gio Urshela, who I believe is 1 for 3 versus him. So like the upside of Brian Wu, kind of what he's done as of late. Obviously, he's had quite a few injuries this season, so there is some risk to be had there. He's the highest priced pitcher at $9,400. Got 5 wins, 2.80 ERA, and, he's averaging about, 26, 28 points on the season. Coming off a really strong start. Other than that, he hasn't been pitching too deep into games. They've really been trying to kind of save his innings for this year. So there is some risk there to be had at the same time as well. Kyle Gibson, $9,100, does have pretty decent history in the past versus Tampa Bay if you want to go that direction. Otherwise, we got like Nestor Cortez at $8,000 against the Angels. There is some upside to be had there. And then Dean Kramer versus the Toronto Blue Jays. He's hasn't pitched against them so far this year, which is kind of weird with the AFC or with the I can't even think right now, with the AL East kind of being division rivals and everything else like that, and typically playing a lot of games against each other. He has not pitched against them this season at all, but he had 3 starts versus them last year, which were all pretty good. So Dean Kramer, kind of that sneaky play out there, kind of been a little bit hit or miss so far this season. And then Tyler Alexander actually has decent history versus the Yankees hitters for the most part, outside of like Alex Verdugo, who's 3 for 7 with a home run off him. So maybe a little bit upside there, still kind of risky one in that Yankees team overall. Plus you got the rain factor on that. So kind of mix and match up pitcher as you do see fit. Not anybody that truly stands out from that perspective. And then we're going to move down to catcher for / first base. Technically this guy's a DH most of the time, but it's Mitch Garver at $2,500, averaging just under 7.5 fantasy points per game. Got ahead of myself there. Do apologize for that. Garver, the one thing we have to make sure that he's in the lineup tonight, because he's been struggling lately. So he may be in the lineup. He may not be. He's 3 for 3 with 1 home run versus Kenta Maeda, the expected starting pitcher for the Detroit Tigers tonight. So really good history there. He kind of leads the way in terms of those Mariners hitters versus Maeda. Maeda had 2 good starts versus them last year, but Maeda has not been good this year, and he's not expected to pitch deep in this game. So it's kind of Kenta Maeda into a bullpen game. So looks pretty favorable for the Mariners. And that starts with Mitch Garver tonight if he's in that starting lineup. If he's not, and if we get that news before lock, we'll have that listed down in the comments as kind of a core update to be had there as well. Then we're going to move down to shortstop. We got Zach Nieto here at $3,000. He's averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against Nestor Cortez tonight. He is 1-for-3 versus Cortez in his career. And if we kind of look at what Zach Nieto has done as of late, I got my notes here in front of me as well. He's on a modest 4-game hitting streak, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 2 home runs, and all 4 games have been double-digit performances. If we look at what he's done so far on the season, 261 average, 16 home runs, 59 RBIs, once again, averaging about 10 fantasy points per game at $3,000. And I'm just going to say with these core picks too, you don't necessarily have to play all 5 together, kind of mix and match as you do see fit. But these are kind of guys that I just want to highlight today, kind of based on that past performance, plus some recent history as well. And Mitch Garver didn't have the recent history, but the past performance was good enough to kind of warrant mentioning him. It might be a sneaky play tonight, but he's another guy that you have to make sure that's in the starting lineup once again. But Zach Nieto should be in that starting lineup. Actually, technically is already in that starting lineup since that lineup is confirmed. Just make sure that this game ultimately does end up going off. And then we're going to move down to our outfielders. So we have Anthony Santander here at $3,700. He is actually having a pretty solid season. You see the 34 home runs there. He is 4-for-15 with 3 home runs in his career versus Kevin Gausman, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. And Santander has at least 1 hit in 3 out of his last 4 games, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, coming off a 2 home run. He's coming off a 2 home run game, and he has 3 double-digit performances during those last 4 games. So some pretty good history there in the past versus Kevin Gausman, some pretty good recent history. And, there's the 1 down game in there, which you're going to have some hit or miss from time to time with Anthony Santander. If you look at what he's done so far on the season, 248 average. Once again, 34 home runs. That's a really good total for him. He's going to probably go over 40 this season. 78 RBIs and averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game, $3,700. Actually a couple $100 cheaper than he's been on recent slates. And then we're going to keep moving down with Nick Castellanos at $3,000. Guy that is up a couple $100 now at this point in time. Had that really slow start to the season, been doing pretty well as of late. He's 2-for-5 in his career versus Jordan Montgomery, the expected starting pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight. He's on a modest 3-game hitting streak. 3 multi-hit games during that time span. No home runs, unfortunately, though, but does have 3 double-digit performances. So it looks like a pretty solid, safe play overall. A guy that typically does hit left-handed and pitching pretty well. So I think this is a good game to get to either way, whether you want to get to the Diamondback side, whether you want to get to the Phillies side. Me, myself, personally, I think I mentioned it earlier in the stream, but I did bet the money line for the Diamondbacks. Unfortunately, Corbin Carroll and Marino are not starting for them, so maybe looks a little bit worse for them tonight. I'd like the matchup versus Colby Allard, which we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the stacks, but this should be a pretty good game. The expected run total for this game is at 9.5 to start the day. When I was looking at BetUS, when I bet that money line, it was actually a 10 over there as well. So looks like a pretty interesting game, a pretty good stackable game just in general as well. And with that being said, if you were to go with these 5 players in the same lineup for tonight, you have $13,400 remaining, just under $3,400 per player, which good amount of money left over. You can definitely pay up pretty much for anybody you want at that point in time. Not anybody that's like too super expensive tonight. Gunnar Henderson's, I think, the top guy. There might be one player higher than him. I can't remember. Oh, Aaron Judge would be the one. So that, it's really Gunnar Henderson, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. That would be like the top 3 in terms of price tags. I think Bryce Harper's up there as well. But with the cheaper pitchers on tonight's slate, with kind of the variety of pitcher, the variance, I should say, you're going to want to mix and match there, kind of mix and match some of these stacks. It's going to be a pretty interesting 5-game slate. It should be a pretty fun one, though, overall. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get over to my cheat sheet and talk about those top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So let me get that brought up here. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of variance in these pitchers tonight. Some pitcher that we probably expect is not going to do that good is probably going to do pretty well tonight. Another pitcher that we probably expect to do well is probably going to do poorly tonight. So kind of mix and match as you do see fit. 5-game slate, kind of get a little bit creative there. You want to get a little bit more exposure to a lot of different teams, a lot of different pitchers, or, maybe you just play one lineup and play a little bit lighter than you typically do. But the 3 teams that I do have here, Arizona Diamondbacks going against Colby Allard of the Phillies. It's not probably fully stretched out at this point in time. I believe his 2 appearances so far this season for them have been 4 innings. If they get to him early, it turns into a bullpen game. Should be pretty good overall. Diamondbacks have hit left-handed pitching pretty well so far this season. But once again, there's a couple guys missing in their lineups tonight. Maybe that affects them a little bit overall, but does give us some potential value options at the same time as well. They don't really have much history of reverse Allard in the past. I believe the only one that had a good little chunk was Lourdes Gurriel. So he obviously ended up in the cheat sheet for today. And then we have the Seattle Mariners going against Kenta Maeda. Not a long list history there. Not too many of the players that actually do stand out, but Mitch Garver was kind of the one lone stand out there if he's in that starting lineup. Like getting him, but kind of mix and matching some Seattle hitters the rest away from there. Definitely does make some sense. Maeda had 2 good starts for some last season. He's not pitching deep in the games. He has not pitched well so far this season, so it looks pretty good for him, or so it looks pretty good for that Mariners team overall. And just keep in mind, he's not pitching deep in the game, so you're probably getting to that Detroit bullpen, which isn't the greatest one in the world as well. And then last but not least, we have the Baltimore Orioles. Some hit or miss history versus Kevin Gausman in the past. Kevin Gausman himself this year has been very hit or miss. So do like getting to some of that upside of that Baltimore Orioles lineup once again tonight. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of the live stream for today, in terms of the weather report, in terms of the lineups that we do have so far, the core picks and the top GPP teams to stack. You know, it's a pretty small slate, a 5-game slate. If anybody does have any other additional questions, feel free to drop them in the live chat at this point in time. If you're watching on a replay, feel free to drop it down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Going to hang out here maybe for like a minute or more, but I'll kind of go through my little spiel. If anybody does have any other additional questions at that point in time, we'll answer those as well. But for those of you joining, definitely do appreciate it. You know, as always, I had a brain fart there. So, you know, as always, I typically put things down in the comments in terms of starting lineups, everything else like that. We have like 3 starting lineups that we are still missing for tonight. So I'll try to get those down in the comment section of the replay of this video as well. If anything like majorly changes in terms of news, we'll leave that there as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have. If you're brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Definitely do appreciate you doing it. You know, if you're somebody that's been checking out for a while, have yet to subscribe, please consider subscribing as well. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS Core Pick videos Monday through Friday. Obviously, this one's kind of a little bit different because we have the live stream today, just because a lot of things been happening this week. So just made it a little bit easier today to do the live stream versus the traditional pre-recorded Core Pick video. But we'll be back with the pre-recorded videos for tomorrow's slate, which will be probably a pretty big one. Haven't looked too much into that at this point in time, but we'll be starting to do my research, you know, relatively shortly after recording this live stream. But with that being said, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I also do have my CFL DFS videos going up once a week. They typically come out on Wednesdays. They start typically on Thursdays. If that's something you're interested in, go over, check out that video real quick, because it's going to be a pretty interesting week for CFL DFS. Definitely some leverages, some edges that could be had there as well. That sheet is constantly updated on my Patreon page as well throughout the week, since CFL does like to play games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, kind of spaced out a little bit there. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. For BetUS, it's 125% match on your first 3 deposits. I believe it's still up to $2,500 in total aggregate. Haven't checked too much into that at this point in time. Haven't really deposited there myself personally in quite a while, just because I keep playing with the money that I already have. Maybe I should take advantage of that. You guys should take advantage of that at the same time as well. Helps you out as you get started with that journey. Helps me out a little bit on the side as well. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video, whether it's in the live chat, or whether it's on Twitter or X at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video, for today's live stream. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for tonight's slate overall. Looks like we don't have any questions coming in now at this point in time, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. But if anybody does have any other additional questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section of this video, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible as well.